Business destroys creativity, and we're all to blame for it. Hi there, I'm Mr. Creative, and I will show you how to start up that creative bone of yours. We are so used to our own culture, in our own businesses, that we scoff at the different ideas we're not used to. After all, why change the dynamic of the office when it seems to work fine? It worked all this time, so why change it? But the world is changing, my friend, and it's changing fast. Businesses who don't adapt won't succeed. Creativity is a fun word, because even now we're struggling with what it actually means. And since there's a lot of different descriptions about the word, I will simply use mine, which is creativity is finding or different scope. Creativity is finding or discovering new patterns or devices based on ideas you found it from different sources. And one thing I want to add to that is that at least one person needs to find your idea creative. If I just simply do this, is that creative, or am I just being silly? The world has never changed so fast as it has the last 100 years. Just imagine this. Computers only came out in the home market around 1977. Not even 50 years ago. And the internet only started to get popular around 1959. And changed the whole way we do businesses. A lot of companies back then used to refuse the idea of using the internet. But a lot of them don't even exist anymore. IKEA was one of those companies. They believed they didn't need a website in order to sell the product. After all, they sell furniture. Why do I need a computer to sell furniture? And they were lucky. They had a lot of profit beforehand, otherwise you wouldn't even know their name right now. They made massive losses during the time and had to hire in a lot of IT in order to keep up with the rest. But hey, you might be wondering, why do I tell you all about this? After all, that isn't the title of the video. And you're right! In some way. But the reason I told you this story is to show how important it is to innovate and go along with the times. You might think, what's stupid of IKEA? Everyone knows how big the internet is. And yes, right now we do. But not back then. We don't know as well what will be big in the next 10 years. Maybe it's the metaverse. Maybe it's some form of AI. That we don't know yet. Even 5 years ago, we made fun of earplugs without wires. But nowadays, they're more common than the wired ones. But how can we adapt and change when we don't know what the future brings? Well, my friend, it's not about immediate change, but making sure you and your company are open for the idea of change. And don't scoff immediately at the guy or girl who wants to try something different within the company. You see, in businesses we make our own work culture. We start at certain times, talk about certain topics, work in some specific programs and have drinks at a certain time. We're a creature of habit and we can be afraid of big changes. They scare us. Even if they are helpful, they can feel still threatening to us. We get defensive whenever someone has a new idea. And in most businesses, cultures, it looks good when you're being critical of new ideas. So, what do we need to change? In businesses, to expect a more creative approach. Well, first off, we should make time for it and try to understand new ways of thinking. We can change our business culture when we feel too busy to change. So we can take advantage of our own routine by creating a weekly innovating session, where everyone in the office can talk about improvements and new creative ideas for within the company. Be careful! Creativity is the popularity contest. You should not decide what idea is implemented on a popularity vote. The reason for that is that creative ideas are most of the time not the most popular ideas. New things are scary, so most ideas will win in these methods are mediocre and, might I say, boring. The biggest creative ideas most of the time come from one person who isn't valued at the time, because at that point he or she is just a wacko with a weird idea. This is why it's good to have someone take the role as creative director. He or she will decide which ideas will get a trial run. This is a very delicate operation, because that person gets a lot of power and is expected to have a balanced perspective. It needs to be a person everyone can trust and feels free to share their ideas with. The boss, the workers, maybe even their customers. Everyone has to respect that person and see value in him or her. Even though we all work together in a company and have global goals we want to achieve, we also look out for ourselves first. Of course, all the workers think this idea, for example, I'll start over. For example, the workers want to start an hour later so they aren't stuck in traffic. Of course, all the workers think this idea is great, but for the boss, this just feels that the workers want to work less. It's great if both workers and the boss can rely on the creative director to be neutral and explain how this idea might work in the boss' favor as well. Workers might feel more energized to work because their energy hasn't been drained from standing all day in traffic. They have slept more and feel less need to constantly get a cup of coffee. You can also have a tiny safety net for the boss by making sure people finish their work for the day, otherwise they have to work an hour later to make up for the hour they missed by getting later at the office. This is just an example of an idea. I'm not saying this is going to work, but try things. And we need to try more things. And even if they fail, that's fine. Even better, we need to fail more often. We only think in success in this world. But in order to succeed more often, we need to fail more often, and we need to fail faster as well. We need to celebrate creative ideas, even if they fail. By changing the focus of a company with a sentence like, "We've always have done this, so why change?" Change it to, "This sounds interesting. Let's try it out." Changing this thought can really help with failing and succeeding more often. A great example to motivate this is the Lemon Award. What is the Lemon Award? What is the Lemon Award? Great example. This is a reward to show the most creative projects, even if they have failed. And especially if they fail. People should still feel really happy to get this reward, because it shows how creative they are. Now, you might think, these creative sessions might sound great and all, but I'm not really creative. So for me it's just a waste of time. Let the creative people think about stuff like that, so I can just do my work, okay? But this is simply not true. Everyone has a creative bone. We just don't always use it. Just a simple example of this. What do you see in this picture, visually? You probably grab an answer that seems most logical to you. But another person might see something completely different, even if you don't think so. It's not about thinking of the weirdest idea in order to be creative, but to think in different aspects that other people might have missed. I hope this video helped a bit to show why we need creativity, and we shouldn't neglect it. Did you also notice that I did this video in one whole take, and that I sometimes struggle a bit? I thought it was a fun, creative way of trying this out. What did you think? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching!